So a University of Toronto student newspaper wrote a negative article about me, a hit piece on the VOV podcast. Now, they don't go explicitly naming me or naming VOV podcast because in journalism, there's something called a right to comment. So let me just read you the definition quickly of what the right to comment is in journalism. It generally refers to the ethical obligation for reporters to seek comment from individuals or groups who are the subject of a news story, particularly when the story makes allegations or presents a critical viewpoint. So, why did these authors not want to reach out to me for this right to comment so they could say explicitly, we are talking about VOV podcast and its host slash creator, Carter Ponce? There are a few reasons. I can give you the good, bad, and the ugly. The ugly is your classic woke idea that we don't want to give this person any more of a platform. He already is spewing his hatred on VOV podcast. We don't need to further amplify his voice now on a student newspaper publication. But I'd like to think that these authors aren't so nasty, aren't so bad. You know, I give them the benefit of the doubt. Let's go to the bad. That was the ugly. The bad might just be that maybe they were a bit shy. You know, it would be kind of awkward to reach out and be like, Mr. Ponce, we are writing an article accusing you of being a misogynistic, transphobic, hate spewer. What are your thoughts? Kind of uncomfortable, kind of awkward. I'd be looking like the Bob meme face, you know, the blob from, I don't even know what that movie is. I'm going to have to pop it up on the screen. But, and then the good explanation, which when I say good, I mean good for me, would be that maybe they were, you know, worried that if they reached out, I would actually end up being a super nice guy. I'd actually be a gentleman. They wouldn't be able to resist the kindness that emits from my soul. We can just dive into this article and we'll go through it. I haven't read this. So this article was published on December 9th, 2024, which was literally one day after the president episode was uploaded. Surely they were working on it a bit beforehand, but I just thought it was funny how the timing went there. I didn't end up seeing it until like a month later because nobody reads the Strand. Somebody sent it to me because I think it got reposted on Instagram or something, but it was sent to me in January. I read it back then. I haven't read it since, so this is live, no games. This is my second time ever reading this article and my first time reading it in a very long time. So I'm going to give you my live thoughts, my live reactions. The article is titled Entertaining Hate by Sophia Bannon, Ida Conlu, Kate Moffat, and Manuela Mora Castillo. So I actually take this as super flattering. 4 girls writing an article about me. Gives me rosy cheeks, but you know, if they wanted to catch my eye, could have been much simpler than this. You didn't have to, you know, come after me so hard. You could have applied to be a guest on the podcast. In fact, I'm going to invite these girls. If anybody knows any of these authors, send them this clip. I'm going to invite them out to Frozen Yogurt. We can talk in person. They can accuse me of being a hate spreader. I'll clap back with telling them how pretty their necklace is. It'll be fun. You know, I'll pick them up in the Pimpala. We'll get Frozen Yogurt. And then maybe if it goes well, we'll be doing a part 2 of this video talking about the positive article they write about me. So that's just to say, very flattering that this much work was put into me. Entertaining hate, Victoria College's civil discourse. In the world of politics, matters can get a little muddled, regardless of the spaces in which they are held, online forums, social media platforms, in-person conversations, or even institutional spaces. Political debates can spiral out of control with escalating tones and sharp insults. Just a few days ago, members of parliament from the New Democratic Party and Conservative Party accused each other of harassment, alleging that representatives on the other side were intentionally disrupting the session and disrespecting both their colleagues and the House itself. Across the ocean, Senegalese lawmakers exchanged blows in 2022 after a physical altercation broke out in parliament during the passing of the 2023 budget. While fairly uncommon, these incidents demonstrate the drastic turn political conversations can take if not adequately mediated. So we're setting the stage for battle, for violence. If you don't control speech, it could get out of hand. We're setting that stage. Civil discourse, which promotes dialogue between different points of view, aims to mitigate the possibility of an all-out political brawl. It requires parties to develop mutual respect and to build civic trust, hoping to separate people from their own echo chambers by subjecting their beliefs and values to criticism. Ideally, Civil discourse should foster understanding across the political spectrum, encouraging people to engage in tough conversations without expecting the miraculous mending of ideological cleavages. It is not about changing someone else's mind, but about comprehending where the other person is coming from. Absolutely. But I have to say, I don't know if these girls took any time to actually watch a full episode. There's no way that they believe that I don't try hearing out my guests. I wouldn't have been able to go for 99 different guests, 110 episodes, if I was closed off. In fact, I've talked about this on episodes, about how you actually need to be a lot more open-minded, probably more open-minded than most people even are, because I'm talking to so many different people. And if I was just walking around living my life, I'd probably have my values, my standards, I'd be pretty set in them. But when you engage in this kind of discussion and an undertaking in a podcast where you speak to a wide variety of people, you're not going to get interesting conversation. You're not going to have guests want to come on, or that guest is not going to want to tell their friends to come on if you don't hear them out at least a little bit. Like, so that's clear to me. Yet, like all things politics, it is not that simple. The world has experienced an increasing divide between opposing political groups, where notorious right-leaning politicians, influencers, and think tanks have turned to neo-nationalism as a response to their perceived persecution. So, neo-nationalism, I'm going to be completely honest, don't even know what that means, neo-nationalism. But this article was published before the wokes and the libs of Canada became super patriotic and nationalistic. Once Trump became a threat across the border, all of these types of people were super nationalistic, super patriotic, super pro-Canada. This was at a time when I was discussing patriotism, I was discussing nationalism, nationality. I talked about it with the president on that episode. I had my Canadian flag behind me when it was not popular to be nationalistic. So very quickly, that idea can get thrown out the window. Nationalism now in Canada is very popular. People love being Canadian. People are very patriotic, in response to tensions with the U.S. So the conservatives typically were always pretty patriotic. Now the liberals have joined in because they don't like Trump. So it's good. I think it's good. I like that we're rallying around Canada. We might have different reasons, but this is a great country, so that's good. In their eyes, anti-liberal policies will bring back long-forgotten national glory, where society was fairer, more equal, and with more opportunities for success. They have now become free speech advocates who intend to defeat the woke armies and cancel culture, claiming that it is the sensitive and intolerant left who perpetually harms the possibilities of political conversation. I mean, that's true. If you pay any attention to the media space, podcasts, even mainstream, there's much more willingness from the conservative platforms to bring on differing ideas than the left-leaning platforms. So that's just not being very perceptive. But these groups, which frown upon political correctness, use the banner of free speech and civil discourse to spread ill-intended and malicious messages. At their core, the neo-nationalist right has co-opted civil discourse as a tool to legitimize its harmful messages, generating a false sense of censorship that makes right-leaning citizens feel persecuted and silenced. Civil discourse, as previously defined, also has its limits. Hate speech, bigotry, and civil discourse. Hate speech isn't real. Hate speech is bullshit. Nobody actually believes in that. At least they don't believe in hate speech being, a crime that you should be punished for. One of the defining characteristics of civil discourse is that it must take place in an environment where all participants are equally able to engage in politics. Much like free speech, it presupposes the opportunity for everyone to participate under the condition that all parties are joining the dialogue on equal grounds. The moment that this ability is challenged, civil discourse is not possible, as freedom of expression is only possible until one's individuality violates someone else's. Instead, the weaponization of free speech to undermine equality becomes an instrument of hate speech, which includes any kind of communication in speech, writing, or behavior that attacks or uses pejorative or discriminatory language with reference to a person or a group on the basis of who they are, according to the United Nations. Super vague definition. That could be anything. When we're talking about This is why. Listen, girls, your emotional intelligence is your superpower, but you try to like mix it and it sounds ridiculous. You can't put hate speech into law. You can't enforce hate speech rules because they are all on the basis of how it actually makes someone feel. It's so vague. This is obvious, but we're rehashing old talking points here just because this is what we're dealing with. While this usually implies the use of slurs and insulting comments based on someone's race, religion, nationality, and gender, comedy, super funny stuff, among others, this form of discrimination can also encompass subtler acts of intolerance, such as diminishing a person's political agency by framing their concern as overly emotional. Literally what I just said. That's hilarious. What I promise you, I have not read this article since January, and it is now August. But it's completely true. You can't combine the feminine, emotional nature of women with the masculine nature of law and government and infrastructure. Like, it's ridiculous. They're completely separate concepts. To try to blend them leads us to the insanity that we're living in today. So it's true. It's true. And this overly emotional. I gotta reread that. This form of discrimination can also encompass subtler acts of intolerance, such as diminishing a person's political agency by framing their concern as overly emotional. So I literally said that before I even read the screen. Surely, we're going to get further down and it's going to be clear they're talking about VOV podcast. But this is how you know they're actually talking about me. They're talking about Carter Ponce, because they must have pulled that from somewhere. I don't know where I said it, but they must have pulled that from somewhere. Here's a super good take, by the way. Here's a super smart take that I came up with. 200 years ago, we didn't let women go to university. We said they are too emotional. They can't handle the intensity of the ideas that are being shared and discussed in universities. Keep them in the home. They're just not ready for this level of discussion. Okay? Sexism. Time goes on. We start letting the women into the university. No issues at all. Start slow, right? Only the super smart women can come to university. There was like a certain level of filtration that happened. Like, okay, this woman can come in, that woman can come in. We'll just keep an eye out. Eventually, the doors swing wide open. All the women are now in university. There's more women than men in university. And you lead yourself to a place where what's happened? What are these women talking about? Oh my goodness, we can't handle the intensity of the ideas being shared. They're hateful. They diminish a person's political agency, these ideas. You can't call me overly emotional. This is hate speech. University is meant for tough ideas. You want protection. This ain't the place for you. University. But this is why, once again, you actually don't hear intelligent, wise women saying this bullshit, because those were the ones traditionally who should be in university. There should be smart women in university. The ones who can't handle a little bit of fun, a little bit of jokes, a little bit of humor, but more importantly, literally just like intellectual, difficult conversation. I don't know. You're literally proving the point of the men 200 years ago that didn't want you to come in the first place. So call me sexist. I think that's a super smart take. And it's not actually sexist. It's just I'm using my brain. So it is because of this misapplication of freedom that the rhetoric of civil discourse must be looked at carefully. Put simply, hate speech has no place within political conversations, even if it is disguised as a diversity of political thought. There's another VOV sign, a quote of VOV. Our mission, our number one point in our mission statement was to promote diversity of thought. They added diversity of political thought, but the mission of the podcast was to promote diversity of thought. I thought it was a fun play on words because, University of Toronto, all we talk about is diversity of race, gender, sexuality. Nobody seems to care about diversity of thought. That's the most important kind of diversity in a university. That other stuff is pretty useless in comparison. Still, there are political sectors that continue to hide their harmful ideology behind their legal right to participate in politics, benefiting from unlimited access to online forums to transmit their messages. Infamous names like Andrew Tate, who has 6.9 million followers on X. Now it's probably, I think it's over 10 million for the top G. And Nick Fuentes, whose social media comments following the US elections has been reposted 35,000 times, use their platforms to spread anti-women hate. Rooted in provocative language, their online bigotry thrives on supposed entertainment where their bigotry can be obscured as clickbait. See, listen, man, this leads us to another conversation. These girls are definitely not coming with me to frozen yogurt. It's a serious invitation. Sometimes people ask about, do you think men can be friends with women? Platonic friendships. And I say, not really, not for me at least. I have no female friends. If I'm gonna have a friend that's a woman, it's gonna be my girlfriend. Supposed entertainment, this is the thing. They had 4 women writing this article, supposed entertainment. Yeah, it's super fun. Andrew Tate and Nick Fuentes are hilarious. I should have been a co-author on this, honestly. Forget right to comment. They should have had me in that lineup and I could have just added like author's notes. I guess that's what I'm doing right now. But anyways, these worldwide trends are also becoming evident at the University of Toronto and Victoria College, where the line between freedom of expression and hate speech is getting increasingly blurry because hate speech isn't real. Okay, you think it's getting blurry. Hate speech isn't a real thing, so it's always kind of blurry. As such, these institutions are not free of criticism. On campus, there is a concerning increase in the co-optation of civil discourse rhetoric by bigoted online groups, VOV, who claim to be university affiliated. That's where they got it wrong. It literally says in the bio, UofT's only independent, not dependent on the university. We didn't get any funding. When we say we're university affiliated, it's because it's branded for UofT. It's not affiliated with UofT. It's a student podcast, but it's independent. I'm a UofT student. I'm affiliated technically. The podcast is independent. The podcast is affiliated with me. So very indirectly, it's not really affiliated. So that was false. Who claim to be university affiliated and occupy university spaces under the seemingly permissive stance of the institution. Yeah, occupy university spaces, where I live, literally my dorm, is what they're talking about when they say occupy university spaces. I recorded almost every episode in my Roll Jackman Hall dorm room, in my suite, under the seemingly permissive stance of the institution. So they want me kicked out. They think I should be removed from residence for interviewing students, for literally being the #1 cultural force at Victoria College. Their presence is not only worrisome, but it also inhibits authentic expression and community participation as students opt to avoid community engagement in fear of discrimination. Bro, people are doing that with the 3,000 gay flags that are on the campus. That's literally a political symbol. Fun fact, I don't know if anyone's seen this. I want to double check, make sure this is still the case. If you go to the Liberal Party of Canada's Instagram page, you know that their logo, I said this a few videos ago about the Victoria College, the Vic College Life page, how their logo is the rainbow flag, permanently, not for Pride Month. The Liberal Party of Canada's Instagram logo is LGBT color. I need to pop up a screenshot of this if it's still true. It's still true. Unbelievable. It's not Pride Month. It's August. The Liberal Party of Canada is gay, and they're proud of it. It's a political symbol at this point. And there's no better proof than the Liberal Party of Canada literally having it as their logo. So Victoria College needs to take down all the gay flags. I talked to Kelly Castle about that. Maybe that can be a video in itself. I had a 1-hour conversation with Kelly Castle about having all the rainbow flags on campus removed. It didn't end up happening. It wasn't even my main objective. I didn't actually expect them to take them down. It was pretty cool. I don't know. There's a story behind it. If you want to hear that story, let me know. So yeah, students are avoiding to engage in the community when there's millions of rainbow flags out there. I'm saying that because I was one of them. I was one of the students. I'm like, yo, I don't fit in here at all. Everything is gay. Everything is homosexual. They did a dildo giveaway. What the is going on? If you went to Victoria College, you paid for that shit. Unreal. You paid $0 for VOV. Not sure what's more valuable. Victoria College, guilty of inaction. At UofT, the presence of far-right ideology in online spaces was first notified to the Strand by the Victoria Organization for Information Care and Empowerment of Survivors, Voices. In particular, Voices was concerned about the rise in misogynistic and transphobic content, especially from a university-affiliated group, VOV, but not actually VOV because we're not university-affiliated, which also raised questions from the Pairs Project. Voices Policy Director Sophia Bannon. Sophia, shout out, she's one of the authors on the article. I looked you up. Frozen yogurt, hit me up. Sophia Bannon stated they reached out to VUSAC and the Dean's office with the hopes that Victoria College would address the harmful messages being shared to ensure student safety and condemn any form of on-campus hate. While both VUSAC and Voices communicated their worries to the Dean of Students, Kelly Castle, Victoria College's response was unsatisfactory, stating that the Dean's office, along with the broader university administration, is committed to providing an inclusive environment where everyone feels a sense of belonging and is free to express their views, as long as these align with university policy on free speech and discrimination. Victoria College dismissed Voices' concerns by claiming civil discourse can sometimes be difficult and painful. Thank you, Kelly. Thank you, Dean Castle. The university administration, some of them in there are better than the woke students. Clearly, Dean Castle has experience with this, type of student. She said, enough's enough. Get out of here. This kid's doing free promo for Victoria College. He's basically an unpaid employee with all the content he's making for us. Let's let him be. Let's let him be. Thank you, Kelly. It's so sweet. Arguing that students have a right to free speech if they follow U of T guidelines, which I did. The Dean's office refused to take action against online platforms and reiterated their commitment to help students engage in tough conversations, even in the form of online harassment. Online harassment? Do I need to pull up the screenshots of the shit people said about me? Talk about online harassment. I might be enemy number one for Victoria College online harassment. I'm not the one sending it. I'm the one receiving it. I got receipts. Shout out Charlotte Schwartz, okay? She went nuts. She went bananas on me. You want to talk about online harassment? There's your proof. And it's directed towards me. It's not directed towards anybody else. Interestingly, the university's guidelines state that students have the right to freedom of speech as long as it is not discriminatory harassment. According to university policy, U of T students are not allowed to target individuals based on human rights grounds, as the university acts within its purview to prevent or remedy discrimination or harassment based on race, gender, sexual orientation, age, disability, ancestry, place of origin, color, ethnic origin, citizenship, creed, marital status, family status, receipt of public assistance, or record of offense. It's a lot of things. This definition, while consistently vague, reaffirms the limits of free speech within U of T's campus and demonstrates that the difference between political conversations and hate is acknowledged and documented by university institutions. Yeah, the one thing you didn't get there, girls, is that it's talking about an individual, okay? It says U of T students are not allowed to target individuals based on human rights grounds, and then including that whole list. We weren't calling anyone out in specific. We weren't saying John is dumb because he's gay, like John sucks because he's gay. Maybe literally, but that's different. We weren't actually, explicitly, harassing students by name or anything. We're talking about ideas. We're talking about grand ideas, which is completely fair, completely within university purview, and it's why we didn't get punished for it. It's why they didn't take action, because we were following the rules, unlike you might believe. The conduct on online platforms presented by Voices to the Dean's office, such as the use of slurs, sexist rhetoric, and transphobic content by student groups, falls under the definition of discrimination provided by university faculty. The lack of immediate action from Victoria College poses the question of what exactly is being labeled as discriminatory. Yeah, I just explained it to you. I mansplained it to you. Individuals versus broad ideas. It's completely different. And this is cool. Isn't this crazy that this was happening in the background? I'm trying to run my show. I'm trying to get guests. I'm trying to be a positive space for free thoughts. And you have women in the background trying to bring me down. And it's cool. It's fun. It's like you can't. I'm too big. I'm too it's like when you and your girlfriend, I don't know if you've done this ever. You stand like a tree. You do the tree pose, and then she grabs onto you, she almost she's backpacked onto you almost, and then she climbs around your torso, your body, to get back face to face with you. That's kind of like what this feels like. There's 4 of them on me, and it's just I'm just moving forward. I'm just walking through the mud. Sophia's up on this shoulder. Ida's down on the ribs. It's yo, chill. Let me live. Let me breathe. I'm trying to interview the president. Okay, I'm trying to get Ibrahim Part 3. He's get off of me, please. This next section goes into talk about a debate that was set up by Victoria College. They had Janice Stein, Pamela Paul, a couple other people to debate gender, transgenderism, different sides of that idea. And once again, these girls, what do they say? They're missing the plot. Okay, they're calling this debate, this setup, proof that Victoria College is tolerant of hate speech, and they're encouraging speakers to share their ideas with students which are hateful, blah, 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 blah. It's not the right idea. It's literally a debate. You have both sides. It's an optional event for students to attend where they can be exposed to idea A and idea B. But these girls they don't want students to be exposed to any idea A, but only idea B. So, it's tough. It's tough. Diversity of thought. It's really important. You can't literally promoting echo chambers. Not cool, girls. So, where does this leave civil discourse? If done properly, civil discourse is a promising concept. At its most simple form, it can keep tough discussions and political debates as a conversation between equals, while in its most ambitious scenario, it can help people achieve a middle ground. The reality is that on university campuses, this is increasingly important. Political tensions and divisions have been on the rise, and there is a necessity to encourage polite communication across the political spectrum. Students come to these institutions to broaden their perspectives, and the only way to do so is by engaging in dialogue with different points of view, backgrounds, and upbringings. Yet, civil discourse is also a double-edged sword. If not properly defined, it risks allowing the unabashed use of discriminatory, harmful, and factually inaccurate rhetoric under the assumption that it is merely a clash of ideas, completely ignoring the difference between contrasting opinions and hateful sentiments. At times, there are perspectives that, due to the nature of their discriminatory basis, violate the equality under which civil discourse takes place, completely removing the possibility of engaging in conversations with those who think certain groups of people should not be allowed to speak. As the University of Toronto moves towards facilitating spaces for political disagreement, it is necessary to guarantee that the new working group on civil discourse recognizes the dangers of fomenting the presence of any form of political statements on campus. It is also a call for the institutions that uphold these policies, such as Victoria College and UofT itself, to reassess what they consider to be discriminatory, as there are opinions, perspectives, and beliefs that threaten the safety and integrity of university students. If the university takes the direction that these girls are proposing, it's toast. All right, it's done forever. It's already been steering that way. They're trying to crank the wheel even further than it can already go. And yeah, it's just, I'm sorry, these are awful ideas. No offense. I'm genuinely flattered by the article, but anyone who knows anything knows that this is a bad idea for universities to prioritize the emotional well-being of its students rather than uplifting and pushing along the intellectual curiosity and the critical thinking of its students. That's what university's for. It's not for feelings. So the Strand reached out to the Victoria College office of the Dean of Students and the Principal's office for comment, but did not hear back in time for publication. So on top of that, they got ghosted. Anyways, Sophia, Ida, Kate, Manuela, thank you for the article. I appreciate it. If you like this video, subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment, share your thoughts. If you want to discuss this with me personally, you can DM the Voices of Vic Instagram account. Follow us on there as well. And we will see you in the next video. Peace out.